All right. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. Great to see you all join us here. Um, yeah, so let's just get started. So everybody, welcome to today's webinar, Maximizing SEO with AI and how AI tools can boost your search traffic. My name is Mason Yu from MarketerHire, and I'm really happy to be joined today by Jonathan Boshoff, who I'm going to introduce in a minute. So we have a few special topics, right? We're going to first talk a little bit about, traditional SEO, ranking in traditional SEO, and then kind of ladder that up into what that means for ranking in the AI search. Finally, next we're going to talk about AI tools to augment SEO, and then we're going to discuss kind of more generally like what it means to be an AI empowered marketer. So let's move on to introductions. So first, our guest here today is Jonathan Boshoff. Why don't you tell us about yourself?
Hi, I'm Jonathan. I'm the founder at the AI SEO Academy, which is a online community where I teach people how to learn AI and how to use it for SEO. I'm an SEO consultant. I've been in the field for about 12 years. I've worked both at agencies and in-house marketing roles. Worked with all kinds of clients like Fortune 500 companies, tech startups, industry leaders. And more recently, I'm all about the AI. I build the tools. I like to make training resources and videos and kind of teach other people how to do cool stuff with AI.
Yeah, your community is really cool. I keep seeing you share a bunch of really awesome tools. So really excited to have you join us.
Thanks.
Um, so and so thanks for being here. So my name, and do the next slide. Yeah, so I'm Mason. Currently, I'm the growth marketing lead at MarketerHire. You might have seen a lot of my emails, every week come in. So how I intersect with SEO is I actually started my marketing career as an SEO, um, went in-house at ClickUp, helped them drive 20 times conversions for one segment of their website using programmatic SEO, which for those of you that don't know, programmatic SEO is a method of like AI and engineering and scaling content. Um, I also built a Python app to automate blog briefs. I think Jonathan has a really cool tool that he does that too. Um, and then currently at MarketerHire, I've also been helping increase conversions and traffic through programmatic and non-programmatic SEO. So that's a little bit about me, and just a little bit about MarketerHire. So if you're attending this webinar, looking to fill gaps, why don't we go to the next slide? Um, if you're looking to kind of fill in gaps to run a successful SEO program, MarketerHire can really help. So we have the top 1% of vetted marketers who have worked at companies that you aspire to be, and also companies who look like your company. I just took a quick peek into our database today. We do have 62 marketers who have actual working experience with leveraging AI tools for marketing. And so if you're interested in finding more out about these marketers, visit our website or reply to me to book your custom scoping session. So with that, let's just move on to the meat of the presentation. So today, we know it's an interesting time in SEO where, we hear about AI and then we hear about SEO being dead because of AI search. And a lot of you have probably seen, Google search now having the whole answer box that's AI driven. Um, so, that kind of, so the first part of today, we're going to just talk about like what that means for just traditional SEO. So we go to the next slide, right? The tried and true SEO workflow involves, right, keyword research, competitor analysis, content creation to establish topic relevance, technical SEO and architecture, backlinks and PR, right? And that's like the traditional tried and true method. So now if we kind of go on to the next slide, like what about AI search, right? So with AI search, we need to know how do these AI models um, ingest the data and then also return this data so that we can get that information. And so if we go to the next slide, everybody knows ChatGPT, right? Where does ChatGPT get its data, right? So if you just take a snippet from OpenAI here, it it says it trains its models using publicly available data, mostly collected from industry standard machine learning data sets and web crawls similar to search engines. And so what does that mean, right? So it's clear then that so the next slide, it's clear that in order to rank in AI search, it's really important to rank on the web. And so I'm going to just pause for a second. Jonathan, maybe, I can talk to you a little bit about it. So what do you think are some of the common mistakes that you see marketers making when it comes to mastering some of the SEO basics, like during this time?
Yeah, probably the funny one right now, just because it's so possible, is just generating massive amounts of content. Uh, and a lot of companies are doing that, but where a lot of people fall short is they're missing all of the like SEO basics. They think that they can
Yeah.
just make content about anything and everything, and that's going to magically equate to like traffic and conversions and leads. But they basically throw the whole SEO strategy out the window and make like thousands of pages. That's what I'm seeing a lot of, just because it's so easy to do with where AI technology is at right now.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, I think it's become also a constant pressure from a lot of senior SEOs who kind of know this playbook still works in the traditional way, but kind of getting pressure from seeing all these AI things and like being able to be scaled and getting a lot of leadership pressure to do the same thing, right? So if we kind of just go back again to like those top five SEO fundamentals, right? We like it's still still a lot of work um to do SEO with like keyword research, competitor research, backlinks, technical SEO, right? And so if we kind of just like zoom in before AI, right? Like before we really think too much about it, traditional SEO does take a lot of work. So just one little process here, which is for content operations, which is just publishing articles. It can take like an hour to come up with good keyword research and take another hour to explain how to synthesize this keyword research into a blog post that will actually rank on Google. And then it could take a writer 5 to 10 hours to draft this post. Then it could take some time to edit and optimize the post for SEO. Right? It can take another hour to publish. So it's just like just for content operations, that's a lot of hours, and it's just a small piece of the SEO puzzle. But you got to remember, all of these puzzles pieces are very important to be competitive and to actually have a chance at ranking. Let's go to the next slide. Um, Now, we still see more than ever that there's tons of opportunity for SEO. You can see that there's growing, I think 17% year over year, the SEO industry. Google is still the market leader in search. And even though there are these AI search tools happening, um, they barely made a dent in Google's market share overall for search, and it still remains very strong. And so it's very competitive, but there's a lot of opportunity. And so that's why today I wanted to talk with Jonathan. You gotta bring him in. Um, what can we do now? If we think about all this time it takes to do SEO well, but there's still a lot of opportunity, like, right? So why don't we kind of look at some of the stuff that you've been doing and how all that relates to this new era of AI and SEO?
Yeah, thanks. So that's a good way to good segue. But basically, like a lot of people looking at like Chat GPT and the new search features in Chat GPT, it's almost like a bit of a shiny object to me, because marketers want to jump on that and they're like, oh, I got to rank in Chat GPT, I got to show up in the Chat GPT search results, and like what are all the hacks I can do for that? But realistically, like there's no shortcuts to getting in those search results. Like if you build a top industry leading resource, like if you build your website into an industry leading resource, you're going to naturally get the visibility in LLMs. You're going to show up in ChatGPT and on search. And when they redo their training models, you'll also get more natural recommendations just within ChatGPT itself. So like there's not a ton of like shortcuts that you can do to rank in search. And that's why like just maintaining a regular SEO strategy is still really important. But what's changing now is that we can actually use AI to augment SEO. And I wouldn't say that it replaces SEO, but what it does do is it allows people to get more things done within the same amount of time. Like in the past, maybe you could spend, 10 plus hours to write one piece of content. Even if you're not like an AI aficionado, you can still use tools to chop that time in half. And over the long term, that can make a huge impact in the business, like any kind of time saving or productivity tool to get more output for your SEO is going to help you. So I'm going to go into a couple of examples about like my journey with AI and like where it's got to now and the kind of tools that I'm building and how they save me time and allow me to get more stuff done. But basically, like over the past 2 years, I've built more than 50 custom AI tools. So I started out really simple. I actually just started out with ChatGPT like most people. But as soon as ChatGPT started getting popular, I got into it and I was like, oh, this is going to be perfect for SEO. It was like the coolest thing. And I immediately knew that this is going to help me save so much time. So that's how I kind of got started. I was finding prompts that I liked and I was recording them into a spreadsheet and just writing down like all my favorite prompts so that I could get them like more repeatable. That was before even some of the tools came out that basically do that for you. So that's how I got my start with like AI is just like at that time I'd been doing SEO for about 10 years. So I already had like the SEO foundations and I started messing around with ChatGPT. And then I think like the next huge leap for me was integrating ChatGPT on Google Sheets. Like that was massive for me because then it made doing things like programmatic SEO, which is Mason's favorite word, it made it so much easier. Like you could use AI to generate title tags or meta descriptions or flesh out entire chunks of pages. It might not get them 100% of the way there, but when you integrate it with GPT for Sheets, it opens up new possibilities. Like you can run prompts in a whole spreadsheet. That was game changing for me. And then I started building custom GPTs, which was kind of a step up from ChatGPT. There's different use cases between the two. Custom GPTs can do some cool things that GPT for Sheets can't do. I'll get into that in a second in a couple of the slides, like what is possible with custom GPTs. But then basically I started building no code apps. So I started using like these drag and drop builders to make apps. And I basically kept finding all of these ways of like, how far can I take this? Like, what app can I build next? What can I automate? And I started like automating every single little thing that SEOs do on a daily basis. And now my current obsession is automating like entire step-by-step workflows, like from start to finish. That's kind of where I'm at. And I'm walking you guys through that journey because basically you can follow that same process. Like if you're just messing around with ChatGPT, you could follow a similar journey and get to the point where you're like creating apps using Python and you don't actually know how to code Python, you're just generating with AI. Like if you stick with it and keep learning, uh, the world is your oyster. Basically, there's so many possibilities. But first, I want to talk a little bit about like why should you even bother with AI? It's very like hypey. A lot of people talk about it on LinkedIn all day. Some people say it's good, some people say it's bad. But basically, like AI in marketing is growing rapidly. Like it's exploding basically. And if you know how to use these tools, it'll save you so many hours, and it's going to automate anything that's really boring and repetitive Like if you have to do like 1,000 alt tag, like image alt text tags for a website, you can get AI to do that. Like you don't have to write 1,000 alt tags. And like I've done that before manually back in the day. Um, the other really interesting thing is you can custom solve specific business problems with AI. Like if you're thinking about like how to use tools to solve problems on a day-to-day basis, you're going to run into unique cases in your specific business where you can build something custom that's going to leverage AI in some way, shape, or form. And it's going to help you like unlock new possibilities and do things that you didn't really think were possible before. Something I've heard a lot of the time when doing like AI projects is people tell me like after it's all said and done, they say, I would have had to have hired a whole team to do this a couple years ago, or I would have needed like an entire squad of people. I would have had to hire like 100 people just to do what you did in a few days. So like that's kind of like what's possible with AI if you are willing to go down the rabbit hole. And 80% of marketers are already using AI in some way, shape, or form. So basically, there's levels to it. You can start with ChatGPT and work your way up to the cooler, more advanced stuff.
Yeah, Jonathan, I'm gonna just quickly pause for a sec there. Just have a little. I think I remember. I think I met you when you had started building these tools, and I think we were kind of like blown away. I think earlier when you're talking about using Python and all that, I'm sure a lot of us in the audience today, maybe a lot of co-founders or marketing leaders are like, well, I don't have time. I'm not technical. I'm not have time. I think both of us had been building these tools with Python. Um, and both of us had never really been any coders before, right? We were able to do a lot of cool stuff, right? And
Yeah.
I think I have just like a really like um I think that was just like a really like cool thing. And I think we should all in the audience like be just like kind of open our minds to the fact that AI not only can help us with marketing output, but also with marketing processes, right?
Yeah,
Kind
that's true. Like if you held a gun to my head and told me to write Python code or you're gonna shoot, like I'd be dead. But I've built like several pretty cool custom Python apps just hosted on like Streamlit running Python scripts. And I didn't write any of it. Like I just prompted AI and I went back and forth and built like a custom tool. And my Python knowledge is very, very minimal. Like it's laughable how well I know Python,
of.
but that doesn't stop me from building apps to do like custom things that I want to do. Like for example, building an internal linking tool. I built a tool that can like audit a website in one click. And again, not really knowing how to write a single line of Python myself.
Right. And so like in order for you to also do that and to think about that, right, you also have to like know the SEO basics, right? You can't just like just tell ChatGPT to audit the website without any of your opinions in it.
Yeah, that's true. Like I wrote down like probably what are the 20 things that I would want to audit. And then I went through each one step by step with like ChatGPT and Streamlit. And I was like, okay, now that we're auditing title tags and the length of it and things like that. Now let's move on to meta descriptions. But if I didn't have like a solid foundation of what I needed to look at, it wouldn't have gone as well.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about what's possible with like the AI tools that are out there today. And I'll give you a couple of quick examples here. So number one, and I think this applies to almost everybody who's making content, it's probably one of the easiest things to do is you can create custom content brief generators. So you can make a content brief template. It doesn't matter if it's like a programmatic SEO play or it's for your blog or a landing page. They probably all have a similar format and they probably all start with a content brief at some point. And if they don't, they probably should. Um, but it's really easy to build out a content brief generator and you can use no code tools. So, like a drag and drop tool builder. You don't have to use Python. You can if you want to. But there's all kinds of platforms that already exist that allow you to build no code tools. And then you just like pretty much put in the prompts that you want to run on a repetitive basis. So if you've already been playing around with ChatGPT and you've got the prompts you like, or maybe you've got a custom GPT, it's really easy to go one more step and turn that into a custom tool that'll generate content briefs on the fly for you. The one that I built here, it actually scrapes 3 competitor pages. So if I want to make a content brief, I can Google my keyword and I can look at like what the top 3 pages that rank for that keyword are covering. And my tool that I built will actually scrape those pages and it's going to extract all of the topics that those pages have. And it's going to use that to build a content brief that still follows my specific template. And it can identify all the like gaps and opportunities. So like in my app as well, it covers like, here's EEAT ideas that your competitors didn't cover, or here's entire sections of like information gain that competitors totally missed. And it can do that easily in seconds, and it can generate a content brief really quickly and easily. And then if you've got a whole list of keywords, you can do that for the whole set and you can generate like 40 content briefs in a few minutes if you have your tool set up the way you like and it's working really well.
Well, uh, is there any example of you using this one?
Yeah, so I recently did this for, and it was actually a programmatic SEO play. It was for a SaaS company. And basically, they wanted to redo all of their location landing pages. So they're a type of software company in the real estate market. So they have landing pages for like every county in the country in the US. And we started by creating content briefs for all of the landing pages throughout every country, or sorry, in every state and every county, not country. And we needed like 3,000 of them, and that wouldn't have been possible with doing it manually. That's one of those things where you'd need a whole team of people just to do something like that in any reasonable amount of time. But we did it with AI in probably 3 hours from start to finish to generate like 3,000 briefs.
And then just like after that, like were there like manual writers or like was that also AI writing?
No, that's a good segue into what I did next.
Awesome.
um, so kind of more advanced, but you can also do the same thing to create custom content writers. And that's a little trickier. You have to really be comfortable with your prompting strategies and how you want to generate your content. But like you can leverage a knowledge base. So that basically means like uploading documents about your website, about your brand. You can do brand guidelines. You can do all of your product pages, all of your service landing pages, all of your software pages, and you can feed a knowledge base all of that information. If you want to get really crazy with it, you can even feed it competitor information. So you can be like crawling your competitors' websites and sucking up their knowledge to help you train your AI. There's tools out there where you can deploy like a 24/7 research agent that's constantly scraping the web for certain topics and learning about them. And you can do the same like content writing in bulk. So that's the next step that I did is I generated the content for all of 3,000 of those like county and state pages. And this is an example just from a tool. It was actually a 4,000 word post and it had links like statistics and quotes found from the web, and it had tables and like nice formatting. And I generated that with nothing but the target keyword and a content brief. You can't really see it in the slides, but that's the input. You just give it a keyword and give it your content brief that you generated in the previous step. And then you get a 4,000 word blog post that leverages a knowledge base. Pretty cool.
Wow.
And here's another interesting one. So EEAT, something that's been talked a lot about, like a lot more lately. So it stands for experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. It's a mouthful. But basically, those are the things that Google is looking for to determine if your content is good quality. And it's especially important with AI. Like I mentioned earlier, people just go generating tons and tons of content without those SEO best practices. And EEAT is a huge one because it's the hardest to fake. It's the hardest to create an AI and have it follow like the guidelines that Google provides around EEAT. Uh, but you can actually create AI tools to help you with that. It's really hard to quantify like what EEAT looks like on a page. But if you have a set of guidelines in like your AI tool, like I take the Google Helpful Content Guidelines, that's like my go-to training data, and I run prompts like, look at this page and reference these EEAT guidelines and tell me if I didn't follow these guidelines and like to what extent could I improve these pages. And AI could give you recommendations like you got to include some statistics here, you could do some quotes here, and then you can even layer that with like competitor pages. So like, did my competitors do a better job on the EEAT components than I did? And that is hard to do manually because you would have to read all of your pages, all of your competitors' pages, and cross reference them and be like, they did this, I didn't, I did that, they did. And it can take a lot of time, but AI can do that in seconds. It can create an entire like EEAT analysis for your page and give you detailed recommendations based just on guidelines or also competitors, depends on how fancy you want to get with it. And it can recommend the exact changes that you need to do to improve your page.
Wow. Yeah, I think this would be super helpful for SEO optimization time, right? A lot of work there a lot of times.
Yeah, it saves immense amounts of time. And actually, like in the content writer that I built here, it has a built-in EEAT step. So that's getting really fancy with it, but it actually writes the content, then does an EEAT analysis on itself, and then rewrites the content based on the analysis that it did. So
Right.
that's getting super crazy with it, but it's possible. And lastly, I'll show you a little bit about GPTs. So I don't think a lot of people know like why should I create a custom GPT? And the most interesting thing about a custom GPT is it can do an insane job of automating like a single task. For example, dissecting all of the topics on the page. That's one that I built, and that's the one in the screenshot here. But a lot of people don't know you can actually have up to 1,000 words in the prompt of your custom GPT. So you can get incredibly detailed and specific with the instructions that a GPT should follow. Another thing people don't know is they can read 100,000 words in the context window. So that's about 2 books worth of words that it can actually take as input for your GPT, and it can output up to 16,000 words. They can also reference documents, search the web, and even hook up to APIs if you are more on the developer side. But custom GPTs is one of the easier ones to make. Like you can just hop on Chat GPT and make a custom GPT after this webinar if you're a pro user. But there's so many possibilities with GPTs, and a lot of people overlook the ability to just make one. It's super quick and easy, and that's the next step. Like if you haven't made a custom GPT, go give it a try and just see what it can do and what's possible. So I'm going to get into some details about my specific process for making AI tools. This is something that I get asked about a lot. A lot of people want to know like, why do I make certain tools the way that I do, and what is a specific tool's value and use case and stuff. So basically, I always start with the end goal in mind. Um, I figure out like what do I want the output to look like and why. Like, why does that matter? I'm not going to make like an EEAT tool for no reason. There's a specific time in my life where that becomes valuable and I need that tool. And that's when it gets made. Like when I have to suddenly do an EEAT analysis on 500 pages, that's when I make the tool. And then I figure out like, what should the output look like? And then I start working my way backwards. And I figure out like what technology would I need to do that. So a lot of people they jump to the end goal. They're like, oh, I'm going to need this custom coded thing. We're going to need developers. We're going to need machine learning experts and AI experts to help us with this. But in reality, like a lot of problems could probably just be solved with a prompt. Like you should think about, do I need Python? Do I need API integrations? Do I really need that stuff? And the best solution is just like, what's the simplest way to get this output? Can I do it with a GPT? Can I do it with Chat GPT and Google Sheets? Could I create like a no code app? Very rarely you're going to find that you need to build like this whole custom fancy thing. That still happens, like it depending on how ambitious you are with your AI project that you might want to take on. Um, you might still need to build something custom, but a lot of people overlook how easy it is to create a solution that doesn't use anything fancy, just what's available today with like free tools and prompts and GPTs.
And Jonathan, I think I already saw a couple of questions here about like what is a no-code app you use?
Yeah. So the one that I is my go-to is a tool called moonlitplatform.com. And the reason I use that one, it's a fairly new tool that not a lot of people know about. But it's the only one that's customized entirely for SEO. Like the whole roadmap for it has been SEO stuff. So it's got like all these built-in like page scrapers and keyword insights that it can pull. And
Hmm,
it's a drag and drop builder. So you can just kind of like highlight and click and select things and glue everything together without having to write any code.
awesome. And so most of those screenshots you saw earlier, those were from the Moonlit platform, right?
Yep, these are all
Right.
Moonlit apps. It's what it looks like. It's pretty simple, like interface, nothing
And I know
fancy.
I know you don't like to pitch yourself, but like how can people find your apps?
Yeah, so the best way is go to the AI SEO Academy on School. So if you just Google AI SEO Academy, you'll probably find it. It's on
Okay.
school.com and it's free to join and you'll get access to over like 50 of the tools that I've built. You can try them all and play around with them. It's lots of fun in there. There's over 1,000 people. So it's a little
Cool.
community.
And so I think somebody else like said it's Moonlit platform.
Yeah, moonlitplatform.com.
All right, cool.
All right, so that's like what's possible, but there's a step to getting there that's way more important is in order to play around with all the cool possibilities of AI, you kind of have to become an AI enabled or an AI empowered marketer. So that's what Mason and I are going to touch on a little bit before we wrap up and get into some Q&As. This is a quote by Gary Vaynerchuk. Some of you might know him. He's pretty popular in the marketing space. But he says that marketers who lead with AI, they're not just keeping up, they're actually setting the pace. And I agree with that. Like, if you were to start just going deep into AI today, you'd still be an early adopter. Like, yes, it's growing quickly, but if you were to go all in on learning about AI and becoming as equipped as you can be with all the tools and technology that's out there, you'd still be super early to the AI game. Like, there's a long way to go. Why does the world need AI marketers? Basically, like we all know this, but AI technology is exploding. It's impacting every industry in the world, every country. Like there's so many AI tools coming out, and AI is clearly going to be like the main thing over the next couple of years, especially in marketing. Like the more AI that gets out there, the more marketing focused stuff that we're going to need AI for. Like you need AI to combat AI. But basically, like it's not a replacement. Like a lot of people think that we're just going to get to this point where we don't need marketers anymore because we'll have like cool AI tools. That's not really how it's going to work. Basically, like you still need creative people behind the scenes in control of those AIs and trying to decide like why we should do XYZ thing. Like, for example, Mason will put together a whole programmatic SEO project. Maybe he'll use AI to build some of those components out, but you still need a Mason to put the project together and run it. And that's kind of like where marketers come into play. If you know how to use AI tools, you can bridge your creativity You can combine that with like the speed and the precision of AI and machine learning, and that's where the magic happens. Some examples: uh, small in-house teams can outdeliver large agencies. That's probably the most exciting thing that's happening with digital marketing right now, is teams of like 2 or 3 people can get more output than an entire agency used to be able to do. And that's scary for agencies. But there's also agencies out there who are kind of adapting and saying, you know what, we can provide 10 times more output than what we're currently doing if we adopt AI. Or they can be in charge of the strategy. Like maybe you need an agency who has a lot of experience in SEO, for example, and you need help just understanding the tech and the strategy behind it. And maybe you don't need them to actually give you like the deliverables. You can do those yourself. So there's agencies that are kind of picking sides. Like maybe I'm going to be on the output side. Maybe I'm going to be on the strategy side, or a little bit of both. But either way, you can be a small team with AI. You can do a lot more, or you can be an agency and be more helpful. This is a screenshot of Sam Altman. Some of you guys might know him as well. He thinks that it's all going to be done by AI in the future. And yeah, it might all be done by AI in the future, but at the same time, we're still going to need like creative people behind the scenes coming up with ideas, especially ones that are going to equate to like ROI. Like, sure, you can press a button and generate 1,000 blog posts, but at the end of the day, that needs to be tied to a strategy that actually grows the business.
Right. And I think like, when I was doing all of these content projects and leveraging AI, I remember kind of like realizing that, AI is a non-opinionated tool. It's like if you just use AI with zero marketing knowledge, you're always going to get the middle of the road generic stuff, which, the barriers to entry for that is like zero now. And so like that's why marketing is almost more important than ever because everybody is able to create this stuff and you need that opinionated way of doing it, right? I'm sure like Jonathan, like, as you're talking about your EAT one and your content brief, right? And your like all those tools you're building, like it's your specific marketing opinionated knowledge approach towards building that. And so I think I wanted to stress that because the ones that are winning are not the marketers that are just using AI tools. It's the marketers that are packaging their opinions into scaled ways.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Really good way to look at it. Like it doesn't matter how fancy AI gets, we're still going to need smart marketers running those AIs. But here's a quick example of like what the output difference looks like before and after AI. So it doesn't matter if you're an agency or an in-house team. And this example here, I think it's funny because I actually used to deliver this exact like retainer when I worked at an agency. Like this was one of our service offerings. But basically it was 4 blog posts per month. That was before AI. And so it's basically like one per week. With AI, you can easily do 20 plus posts per month. That's one a day.
Right.
You We would monitor the ads. So we would just basically check on them, make sure they're still running. uh, if you're using AI on your advertising, you can keep them all like optimized and well oiled and constantly improving over time. Uh, you might plan a social media calendar and you might struggle to keep it full of ideas. If you're using AI on the social side, you can have a totally packed social media calendar full of awesome ideas. You might make one small website improvement, like you might do that little page speed optimization thing. You might get that out the door. Uh, if you're using AI in that same time frame, you could probably set up and deploy a whole programmatic SEO campaign. And
Nice.
then sending one dashboard report like, hey, boss, or hey, client, here's your report. Enjoy from the dashboard. You just hit download and send it. I used to do that. Instead, you could even use AI to analyze the data and you can find all sorts of opportunities that you might not have even noticed before.
So I guess like this is an interesting like segue into the question of like how do you think that I guess like freelancers or just like independent marketers can kind of bridge the gap between, what you were talking about with like, marketing strategy and leadership and like agencies, right? Like where do you think that kind of lives?
Yeah, like it basically goes back to what we've been talking about, which is just that you still need the foundations. And like, we're all here because we like marketing and we know stuff about marketing. The only thing that's really changing is now you can take advantage of AI tools that are going to help you do 10 times the output, find all these unique insights, get stuff done faster, automate boring things. And that actually makes you as a marketer more valuable because your ideas are going to go further and it's going to be more possible to like implement a vision that you have for your business or the business that you're working in.
Nice. And so yeah, I think we should go to questions soon. But yeah, key takeaways, right?
Yeah,
Traditional
these are the
SEO.
key takeaways.
You want to
SEO
you want
still
to why don't
matters.
you go ahead and do the key takeaways since I started the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, regular SEO still matters. And there's no hacks for showing up in ChatGPT or LLM optimization. There's no cool little tricks you can do to get extra visibility. Just good old fashioned SEO and growth and visibility. AI tools are a huge opportunity, but to use them, you need to become an AI empowered marketer.
Awesome. We got a lot of questions from folks in the audience during registration. So why don't we go through a couple of them?
Sure, yeah. We got a couple that we've already picked out. We looked, there's probably like, I don't know how many there were, but there's so many questions. We picked out the ones that kind of applied to the most people. But if you don't get your question answered, you could probably just reach out to Mason and he'll get you an answer to the questions that didn't get answered. But here's the first one here. How do you think Gen AI is impacting original content and tone? AI is helpful for generating outlines, but how do you avoid sounding like a robot? Mason, do you have any experience with this industry and making AI sound a little less robotic?
Yeah, I think actually one of the best tricks um, is you know getting the AI to start understanding your own tone of voice by you just recording a transcript of yourself talking. Um, that is like a really good way to avoid all the leverage this and superpower this, right? Or all those ChatGPT-isms. Um, so like just recording your voice, getting that um voice to transcript as a really good way to input. And then I think to scale that, right? Like so that's why kind of getting under the hood and knowing how to use ChatGPT for sheets, right? And what Jonathan was talking about. Some of these apps are now you can use that almost as the kernel for how you're going to create content. Um, so that's generally how I avoid sounding like a robot. Another way is like just feeding it all the content that you've written, either for the company or your own content, right? And having that as like the database of its knowledge, it generally will then spit out like a shadow version of your brand voice. So I think it can never be 100% eliminated. But you can get it close.
That's true. That's a cool idea. I've never done the voice to text to use that as like the tone of voice. I'm gonna try that out. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool. But yeah, I agree with that. Like the more knowledge you can give it to train it, the better it's going to turn out. But it's not going to be perfect. You'll still have to edit it. Next one. How can we look for more relatable phrases, especially when search is now driven by AI? I got a good one for this. Uh, but basically, like what you want to be looking at now is more along the lines of entities instead of keywords. So entities are kind of becoming a more modern version of a keyword. Google is going to look at the entities that your page is talking about and like the salience of each of those entities. So if you're not sure what that is, it's basically like if you were to talk about marketer hire is an entity, it's a thing. So when you talk about specific things like that, Google is going to figure out the salience, which is like the emotional coverage that you've got in your words, and also how frequently you're using certain entities. It's kind of like the modern fancy way of keyword optimization. And if you are covering that, it's kind of like a natural language processing way to optimize your content.
Interesting. Actually, can you just say that one more time in terms of emotional? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so salience can detect the emotional range of how you're talking about something. So it can tell if you're talking negatively about something or positively about something or remaining neutral. So it's kind of detecting what amount of bias you have to the topic you're talking about. Like if you're covering like a certain list of tools or something, like here's the best tools you can use, it's better to remain neutral. Because if you talk about one tool and you have way more bias for that tool versus everything else on the list, uh, with natural language processing, it can actually be picked up that you're having a bias for a certain thing that you're talking about. And that's something that Google looks out for. If you're trying to compare multiple objects, multiple things, Google wants you to be pretty neutral about how you're covering them. So that way it's a fair assessment.
Right. This is actually very relatable then, because a ton of companies and SaaS blogs are these days like publishing these listicles or versus articles, so they probably need to know about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
Google looks at that. They look at like, did you cover pros and cons? Did you only talk about the pros? Did you talk about the fallbacks? Did you talk about the flaws? Like that's how Google tells if you're being uh,
Right.
neutral or biased.
Cool. Next question.
All right. What can be done without an agency or internal SEO expertise? And then kind of the flip side, how will AI affect local SEO or running an agency? Mason, you got anything you want to touch on for this?
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of this actually. It's like, in terms of, I mean, first of all, let's look at the second question, affecting local SEO. You already showed us a use case of being able to now personalize pages to specific cities at a very kind of a very personalized way. Like AI is going to produce personalized content for that location. So that's like one easy way that it would affect local SEO. Now, of course, the barrier to entry of that is also lower. So the competition, I forecast the competition to local SEO is going to be higher, which is a good thing for the industry because I come from a local SEO background where I remember all these black hat tactics still working in 2022, 2023. So I'm actually excited to see um, the competition increase for those keywords so that we have just better marketing content overall. Running an agency is also, if you embrace it, right, you can have better output. If it'll basically magnify the quality of an agency you are. So if you're an agency that houses a lot of IP, unique knowledge, unique opinions, processes, adding AI is only going to increase your impact a lot more. If you're an agency that is taking shortcuts, kind of tricking clients, it's just going to be magnified and it's going to be very obvious. So I think AI is sort of like the magnification of all the qualities. And then what can be done without an agency or internal expertise? I mean, like I'm biased, right? I'm no, well, like there are tons of AI first marketers. Jonathan's one of them. I'm one of them. MarketerHire as I mentioned, 62 that I've seen, and these are just 62 people that have written that they are AI driven. But I know there's a lot more than that. So like that's one option. Another option is just to learn it yourself, because I think that as you saw, the trend is just increasing of AI adoption, and again, like we have to sift through the hype of AI and also the under leveraged use cases of AI. So those are some of my advice. Jonathan, if you have anything to add there.
Yeah, no, I pretty much agree with that entirely. And my stance is you still need a little bit of SEO expertise. Like you can't just not have any SEO expertise. That'd be like having a machine gun and not knowing where to point it and how to shoot it. Like if you have like an AI that can generate 1,000 blog posts and you don't know like what you're gonna do with it, that's kind of like a dangerous. So either you get the internal SEO expertise, you learn it yourself, or maybe you could find a consultant or an agency to fill in the strategy components.
Awesome.
How do you strategize your content and pages for insert industry here? Our audience is somewhat niche. I get this one all the time, and everybody thinks that their industry or whatever is really special, and there's just no SEO use case for it. And sometimes that is true, but I find that more often than not, there is an SEO use case. Uh, Mason, I don't know if you got one, but I'll give you mine. And
Go ahead.
my answer is to think about user stories, kind of like you're building a software, like treat your website as though it was a software. What's the user story? Like, why would somebody come to my website? Like, for example, if you are a DUI lawyer, like you're a law firm that specializes in DUIs. I don't know why I'm picking that example. Uh, but you're going to want to be talking about what are all the problems that somebody experiences when they have a DUI. How does that all work? Like, there's easily a ton of use cases that somebody would be needing to be on a lawyer's website to get that information. So if you go back to the problems that your audience is currently experiencing when they're searching for something, you're going to find all kinds of answers for how do I plan content, even though my industry is nobody knows about it. It's really niche, it's a small audience or whatever.
Right. I 100% agree with that. I love that you say user stories. I think this all goes back to marketing fundamentals. Um, thinking about the customer and like what are their problems, right? Really knowing that ideal, the ICP, what are all the questions they have? How do you answer it in content and matching those needs with your content? So, um, your product is matching those needs to the product, right? And so like your content then has to do the same thing. So that would be my short answer.
Yeah, I think that's all the questions we got in there.
Um, yeah, we have a ton of questions in the Q&A chat here. Um, we have like 5 minutes, I'd say. So
Sure, let's see
can
how many we can get through.
yeah, let's machine gun it. So I think Mary is interested about like how you build an app and run it through ChatGPT. I guess, do you have a quick answer of this, or do you want to go to the slide or?
How do you build an app and run it through ChatGPT? So you hook it up through the OpenAI API. So you get a little API key. And then as long as you hook it up so that you can access that key, there's documentation on it on the website, on OpenAI's website. But then you can interact with OpenAI in any app or spreadsheet.
Yeah, I would an easy shortcut is there are all tools these days that allow you to do the API without going through the dev environment. For example, Clay, that's a tool that I've started using. It's basically like a super powered spreadsheet that integrates with AI automation tools, LinkedIn, every single thing you can think of. So that's a really easy one to try to uh, basically build a little mini app through spreadsheet and then run it through the API without having to like do dev environments. Um, okay, so Cameron said, is this using the paid version of GPT? I think that was when we were talking about the GPT, the custom GPTs, and yes, this is using the paid version of ChatGPT in order to access custom GPTs. But
Yeah.
you did not need that for the API. For the API, you just need to pay for credits. Um, so that's a little different there. Anonymous attendee said, how have you used AI to create social media campaign ideas? Jonathan, have you post on social media, so do you ever use
Yeah.
ideas?
So I actually, for my socials, I actually screenshot and I like write down other people's ideas that get a lot of engagement. And I haven't been as active on LinkedIn lately, but I used to kind of look at like what are people interested in right now? And then I would use AI to brainstorm like all these topic ideas, like what tool should I make to automate this thing? Because that was kind of my angle for what I was doing on social media. And then I would plan out like a little content calendar using all of the ideas that I had collected. And AI would help me like come up with the headlines, create the posts. Like I'm not actually very good on social media. I have very little like social media creativity. So AI is like my crutch for making decent posts that people are going to read.
Yeah, I beg to differ that you are not creative about it. But yes, yes, very good to unblock yourself. Um, Mary is asking about AI enabling us to go from 4 to 20 blogs a month. What's the implications on target audience? Is there a risk of information overload? I'll just answer that. I think when we're talking about SEO as a marketing strategy, marketing tactic, so SEO is all about coverage. So it's not like you're bombarding the audience with 20 emails about your posts, right? I'm the only thing I can think about right now is like you're sending the audience like 20 posts per month that they have to read. It's actually you're expanding the coverage of your company such that there's all these people that are asking questions on Google, and then finally you're being able to show up 5 times more likely for these questions that people have because now you're able to produce 5 times more content. So that's the beauty of SEO and scaling is like the coverage that will happen um, from this activity. Reza here says, what are the current pricing structures and cost estimates for hiring marketing professionals? I mean, that depends, right? So I think agencies can cost tens of thousands of dollars per month, or it could cost very little, but you get what you pay for. I mean, generally you get what you pay for. Like I would say that first and foremost. MarketerHire's pricing structures itself, like for a relatively lighter kind of engagement, we have a kind of like a standard pricing at around $5,000 per month for a freelancer. It can go up to like 10 to 15,000 per month, but we have a minimum like expectation of 3,000. The reason is our marketers set their own rates, and so when you set a low rate, you're going to get probably a marketer that doesn't actually have a ton of expertise. And so we have that floor for that reason because um, the freelancers that we have are vetted in the top 1%. We do turn rate a ton of marketers. And so that's reflected in our pricing structure. Jonathan, I don't know if you have any additional insight around pricing structures.
No, yeah, all I'm gonna say is you get what you pay for. It's 100% true. Like you cannot get the 100x guy for 1x of the money. Like it doesn't exist.
Exactly. Um, I think we're at time. I mean, I know that we have like a, a chat or so, but like, why don't so anybody who has lingering questions, email me mason@marketerhire.com. Happy to answer you and even connect you to Jonathan if interested. Um, but thank you so much, everybody, for this insightful or for coming to this really insightful session. Jonathan, uh, really great work here and like love learning about the stuff you're doing. Always impressive. So definitely give Jonathan a follow on his LinkedIn and check out AI SEO Academy. And thanks again. Have a great day.
Yeah, thanks everybody.